All right, folks. Yeah, if you're watching this on video, yes, it is a little bit of a different intro, but I promise you the real episode's coming. Nonetheless, welcome back to another episode of Beyond Adjustments. We take chiropractic, wellness, and business beyond the basics and deep into the real world impact they have on our lives. Today's guest is a familiar face, or should I say familiar hands? Or is that weird? I don't know. Anyway, because he's been adjusting lives for years, we've got Dr. Juan Escobar back on the show, ladies and gentlemen. Last time we talked about chiropractic care, running a practice, and busting some of the biggest misconceptions in the industry. But today, we're flipping the script. Because not only are we talking about his brand new practice, ESCO, Elite Sports Chiropractic Optimization, but I'm also stepping into the ring as one of his clients. That's right. I've signed up for Dr. Juan's 8-week health coaching program. And let's just say I may have bitten off more than I can chew. Or actually, maybe I need to chew a little less. I don't know. Either way, this is going to get real. We're diving into the power of chiropractic care in sports, the business of building a high-performance practice, and what it takes to optimize your health and body for peak performance. And since I'm officially in the hot seat as one of his coaching clients, don't be surprised if he throws some hard truths my way. It's okay. Don't worry. I can handle it. I promise. It's kind of why I'm putting myself out there too. You guys are holding me accountable. Anyway, so whether you're an athlete, a weekend warrior, or just someone looking to level up your health, this episode is for you. Strap in, because Dr. Juan is back, and this time it's personal. Welcome back, Dr. Juan. Thanks, man, for coming to the show yet again. I didn't scare you away the first time, but there's something a little bit different about this show. I might have clued the viewers in during the intro, but I wanted to talk a little bit about where you are today, why you're here today, what we're here to talk about, and just kind of dive a little deeper than we did the last time. And then maybe focus a little on your area of expertise, talk a little bit about that, and then talk about my journey and what I got myself into. I don't even know why I approached you, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But again, welcome to the show. Really glad to have you.
It's always a pleasure to be here, except now we have all this really high-tech, cool equipment that we didn't have last time, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's a lot there. It's a lot in there. I mean, I could literally, what you just asked, we could probably talk all day about it, but we're going to try to, condense that because I've been through a lot since the last time I was here. I mean, the best way to put it is I've completely lost it all. Completely. I'm not going to get into much more detail than that, but let's just say I completely hit rock bottom.
I understand that.
And it was a very dark place for me. I went through depression, anxiety. I had panic attacks, which is something that I've never had in my life before. And I've never had faced that type of adversity in my life before. It was, to be honest with you, very scary while I was going through it. And at the time, it seemed like there was no way out.
Sure.
But what really kept me going and what allowed me to sort of come out of that place is my identity. And that's what I found through this. That's what's made me stronger because of it. And what that is my ability to be disciplined and to be able to take care of myself and my health, right? Through eating healthy and nutrition and exercising, right? And being disciplined in that. So kind of a little bit more on, losing everything. I was at a practice, as you knew, Not there anymore. I completely like lost everything. So I wasn't going to the practice. I had nowhere to be. Nobody needed me. Right. Um, but
I needed you, just for the record. I still reached out to him, by the way, after he left the practice. He did me several solids. He actually came to our house a couple of times. See, that's dedication. I'm sorry. But I don't think any doctor would be doing some of the things that you did. Knowing some of your story, and I know I can't share all of it here, it was tough. It was not something anyone can just walk through and come out of it victorious the way I think you have. But the things you did throughout that, like making home visits and making sure your patients were still okay and accommodating during that as well, right? You didn't just say, well, I charge this money. It wasn't even about the money. It was about your patient's health. And I think that that is part of your identity as well, right?
well, I mean, the thing too, and it's important for the viewers to understand that I didn't leave where I was. There was circumstances that led me to have to pull up away from that. And it wasn't my decision. Um, but it turns out that was what I needed at the time. And it's the best thing that could have probably happened to me, even though it did put me in that very dark place. And so I found comfort in still, even though I had nowhere to be, still I'm getting up at 4:40 in the morning to go to the gym Monday through Saturday. I'm in there. I'm working out. And it was the one thing that I could control in my life. I felt because I felt like when there's nothing else you can do and you've completely lost control of your life, the one thing that I did have control over was my ability to get in the gym, put the work in, because some way, somehow, I thought that, or I knew that if I kept doing that, something good would come out of it for whatever reason, because I had control over that.
Right.
And so through my whole depression and, just being in the state where I was at some points even suicidal, I would say,
Wow.
I just, I started to grow in that. There was a support system that I was able to find, not just at home. Of course, my wife has been huge for that. My parents, everybody that's close to me, but also spiritually through God. And I started finding my faith again and taking that very seriously. And oftentimes that's kind of the story, right? People fall in these dark places, and then that usually leads them to their faith or to a higher calling. But for me, that's been very powerful, and I've never been more deeply rooted in my faith than
Oh,
now.
yeah, brother. That's nice.
And I don't want to understate that, because that's been a huge reason why I've been able to overcome these huge obstacles and these pitfalls that I've been through.
Mhm.
But I've realized that I have so much more value to provide to people. Sometimes you do things that change your life that you don't really value or don't really notice as much. Like, you just take it kind of for granted, and you don't think like, oh, maybe other people could benefit from what I just did. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't click.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm a chiropractor, and the reason I got into chiropractic, yes, it was to help people, but it was also because before I became a chiropractor, I was very into just general holistic health and fitness. That's what really segued me into chiropractic, because I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to understand the body more, because I knew there's something more to health. It's more than just, hey, take a pill or take this supplement, right? I knew that like we all had that control. And so what I want to do now is I want to be able to help people between the age of 25 to 45 that are parents, just like I was, that have all the responsibility in the world, right? That, have a wife or a husband, and they feel like they just have no time to take care of themselves. Forget exercise. Like, just talk about taking care of yourself. Most people even feel like they don't even have enough time to sleep, right? And I'm starting to see this as a chiropractor. People come in to see me and they're like, yeah, I have low back pain, neck pain, but it's like, I can't sleep. I'm overweight. I've been trying to lose this weight for so long and I can't, no matter what I do. So, you know, because this is so ubiquitous in our industry and in our nation, what I want to do is I want to dive into that, and I want to help people realize and kind of take those blinders away that their health and their fitness is in their control, and teach them the structure of and the guidelines of how to be able to accomplish that in a way that isn't going to intimidate them, in a way that isn't going to overwhelm them. Because oftentimes we see people get on this journey, right? They do great, they lose all this weight, and then what happens, right? They gain it, pull back, right?
Yeah.
And then some.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I'm living proof, right? We'll get into that in a minute.
And so am I. Like, I'm in there too. My journey hasn't always been perfect. Like, it wasn't until the last 4 years that I've been able to come up with a formula that allows me to be consistent.
Awesome.
Because before that, I was the typical like gym bro that would like go hard for like 6 months. And then after those 6 months, I would fall off. I would start doing, basically nothing other than just eating a lot because I wanted to bulk up. And so I wanted to always get out of that cycle where I could just be consistent. And I was able to find a way to do it to the point where like now, since 2021, I have been working out every day. At most, I will go 2 days without working out. No more than that in the last.
Consecutively or in a week?
So every day, so I try to go every day, right? But what I tell myself is don't allow yourself to go more than 2 consecutive days without training.
Got it.
And so that's kept me like really consistent no matter what.
You were telling me, I think your schedule is, you get up at 4:40 in the morning and you're at the gym by 5. That's discipline right there in and of itself, just getting up that early. So talk a little bit about myself. I used to do that. And I think I'm that typical, go hard for like 5 seconds and then lose steam because life gets too hard. Right.
Yeah.
And, my health is in the state that it's in today because I allowed my circumstances to determine the decisions that I make instead of, taking control and, telling myself the truth, the things that I actually know to be true versus believing that I can't do something or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
And I was on that roller coaster. So I get what you're saying. I was on that up and down of, work hardcore. And I've told this story before. I lost a ton of weight. I did. But then I gained some of it back, right? I didn't gain back the entire thing. I think at one point I've lost like over 130 pounds total. But now I'm like sitting around 100 pounds off of my max weight, which is still, if you think about it, it's good, but I'm still not healthy, right? Because of that roller coaster, right? Because I didn't have the discipline. I didn't have those rules in place. Like you're saying, don't allow yourself more than 2 days, of not going to the gym. I was getting up at 5. I was doing F3. I don't know if you've heard of that. I was doing that for a while. I was doing the gym by myself. I have a Snap Fitness right down the road that I used to go to every day. Like I did that, but then life, So I guess that's like, so what would somebody do in my situation, and we'll talk a little bit about your program in a minute because I bit the bullet on that. And I think I might have, we'll see what happens. Outside of that, outside of having a health coach and what have you, how can somebody avoid that road of, hit it hard, and then fall off? Like what's a piece of advice you can give someone?
Mindset. It's huge, right? Because right now we live in a society where we normalize being unhealthy, right? Like once you get to a certain age, it's like, oh, well, that's normal. Like you're supposed to have a dad bod. Like what is that, right? You're supposed to take medication. You're not supposed to have enough time to take care of yourself and do your fitness. Like that's normalized. And so we kind of have to break out of that and get people to understand like, hey, just because you're not in your teens and 20s doesn't mean you can't, still move the way you want to move. not have joint pain, be able to play with your kids, keep up with them, do all the things that they love to do, play sports, right? I have so many friends that they're like, "Oh no, man, I love basketball, but I completely stopped playing." I'm like, "Why?"
Yeah.
Cause I'm like, "Dude, you're like 35. Are you kidding me?" He's like, "Oh no, 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 I can't do that. I don't want to risk it. You know, my ankles or my knees are too weak." Like, I'm like, "Come on, man. Like,
Yeah.
you can still do this."
I get that. And same thing. I love basketball. I haven't played in years.
Yeah.
I could probably school you, by the way.
Oh, of course. You would probably dunk right over me. But so getting back to your question, like,
Yeah.
how do we do it so that it becomes a habit,
Yeah.
right? And it's really ingraining that into our DNA, just as we know we need to brush our teeth every day, right? Just as we know we need to, wash our hands before we eat, that kind of stuff. We need to make it so that it becomes a consistent habit. And the way to do that is to start slow, start easy, don't overdo it, and have like a baseline. Like that's how I started. So I started doing push-ups, and then I'm like, all right, all I have time for is a minute of exercise. So all I'm gonna do in that minute is push-ups.
Okay.
So I did that for a month consecutively, didn't miss any days, Monday through Sunday. I looked in the mirror after a month and I was like, holy smokes. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
All it took was like literally 1 minute. And so from there, I was like, okay, well, what happens if I start doing pull ups with this? So now I'm doing 2 minutes a day of exercise. Month came by, I'm even better, right? Now I'm starting to see my core is coming out. Like just, it was very evident that what I was doing was giving me results.
Sure.
With very little effort. And then from there, went to like, okay, let's add some squats because I don't want to be, looking like Larry the Lobster over here. So, I started doing that and I'm like, oh, wow, like I feel great. And then I did a course. And now I had a full body workout for five minutes a day because I was actually very busy at the time. Like I was starting up the practice and, there comes a lot of time restrictions and things like that. But I stayed true with that because it only took me 5 minutes. So it became something that was like, I just did subconsciously. Like I just knew I had my routine. It's like that habit stacking thing that people talk about. And it changed my life. And then a year later, I was like, all right, like I'm ready to like start going to the gym. So then I started going to the gym. It took me like literally a whole year of me just doing that. Then I started going to the gym and I was like, man, I love it. Like I'm feeling great. But I still maintained my old habits. So I would still do my pull up, my push ups, all those things, even though I was still going to the gym.
Mm.
So even if I did miss the gym, I wouldn't feel bad about it because I'm like, I still have these things that I can fall back on no matter where I was. If I went on a trip, if I went on like vacation, no matter where I was, I can do push-ups, I can do pull-ups, I can do squats, like whatever. So that's the biggest difference. It's like finding what are the things that you can do right now, no matter if like you work 80, 90 hours a week that you can incorporate into your schedule that's going to allow you to get to a level of consistency that will allow you to grow from there and be the catalyst to getting you in that mindset of like, okay, I can do this because you're seeing results and you're feeling better. And you're also showing to yourself that you can be consistent at it. And then from there, it just takes off and you grow.
Love it. That's good. That's actually really good advice. So with that, do you mind if we segue a little bit into your coaching?
Yeah, absolutely.
So all right, now part for the part that I regret, I mean, looking forward to, no, I do regret a lot of my life choices, honestly, when it comes to my eating habits. And I'm an emotional eater. I stress eat. I have, though, officially signed up for your 8-week program. Really looking forward to it. And for the audience who doesn't know what's coming, can you break down for me like exactly what fresh hell I've signed up for?
What you're in for. So honestly, it's not going to be as bad as you think.
Okay.
Like, again, going back to what I just said, we don't want to make it where it's a living hell for you.
Right.
Because if we do that, that's just going to condition you to think, well, this sucks. I don't want to do this. All right. So we want to make it where it's enjoyable. Yes, there'll be some discomfort because you need discomfort to grow. But overall, we want to make it so that it's an enjoyable experience and it's something that you can start to adopt and make it so that it's part of your life.
Right.
And so, what is it? I mean, it's pretty simple. It's stuff that people already know. But what I bring to the table is the coaching piece of it. It's the accountability. It's the fact that I've been there too. It's the fact that I'm going to be with you every single step of the way, making sure that your mindset's in the right place.
Are you gonna like pop out from under my bed?
I might. I'll grab your feet when you're sleeping, scare you. But that's what it's about. It's about like making sure your headspace is in the right place the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if we can do that, then everything falls right into its place. And
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
start.
Full transparency here. Let's give the audience my starting weight. I'm literally gonna lay it all out here because I really want to show, what the baseline is, what I'm big boy here is working with, and how much work do I actually have to do, and really, should I start saying my goodbyes to bread and joy and all that stuff, like what is it outside of the mindset, right? Outside of you're saying that it's something that I'm going to be doing that's going to be kind of becoming part of my day to day, right? It's going to be practical. What's the biggest change that I see coming, that I should see coming right now?
The biggest change initially is going to be how you feel.
Mm,
Because what you're going to notice is when you start eating healthier and you cut out all the garbage, or I don't want to call it garbage because it is food, but when you start cutting out the processed food, the ultra processed foods, the sugars, the extra carbs that we don't need, what starts to happen is your body performs a lot better. You start to become healthier. Then as a byproduct, your executive function gets better. You have more energy, you sleep better, which also has a ton of benefits that will help you lose weight. So I think that's the piece that you're going to start to become addicted to and fall in love with is how you feel and how you perform. The bonus of that is you're going to lose weight and that's going to boost your confidence
right.
and it's going to keep you in a state where like, okay, I want to continue to do this because I'm seeing the results. It's like that positive reinforcement that's going to come out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what you're going to experience initially. And nutrition is tough initially, right? Because you're used to doing something and it's addictive, right? Like, let's face it, like the stuff they put in ultra processed foods is meant to have you coming back and getting more and more, right? That's just the way it is. So that initially when we start, I'll be honest, it will have some level of discomfort because it's going to suck and you're going to want to revert and start to eat. But just like any drug, there is that withdrawal period.
Yeah.
But once you get through that,
Yeah.
what's on the other side of that is where the enjoyment comes. That's where like you'll start to really see the difference and realize that you're on the right path to what you want to accomplish.
Yeah, I do get that because I did experience that before. I know that feeling. I think what I did lack though is the supervision. So I'm looking forward to the accountability. I'm looking forward to somebody with the expertise that you have to kind of see me along my journey to help me implement all these things so that I can not fall off, or if I do know how to get back on. And I don't want to set myself up for failure, but we make mistakes sometimes, right? And my biggest thing is, I get into the mindset of, well, you had a sandwich yesterday. What's wrong with another one today? Those are the kind of things that I'm looking forward to not experiencing.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
absolutely.
Question for you. So nutrition, obviously, it's a big deal, a big part of the program. Workouts, I assume, are part of the program, right?
Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit about that and how we kind of ease in, or is it full force? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So I would say we definitely ease into the workout part of it.
Mhm.
Because it is an 8-week program though, I do want to like go on like full force, hit the ground running with the nutrition.
Okay.
Because nutrition is really the big needle mover when it comes to weight loss, right?
Yeah.
It's a simple equation, calories in, calories out. And no matter what you do and how hard you work out, you cannot outwork a poor diet,
Mm.
which is not going to happen, right? So we're going to hit it really hard with the nutrition,
Right.
but we're going to very slowly and progressively get you into the exercise part of it, right? Because I know like one of the big reasons why you're doing this is weight loss, right? And that's why most people do it. Uh,
And muscle
it's
mass.
muscle mass, of course, but also important to understand that like exercise itself, like resistance training, and that means weightlifting or bands or like anything that adds resistance to your muscles, that is going to bring about more benefits than just weight loss, more benefits than just muscle mass. It's going to bring more bone density, better regulation of your insulin spikes and your glucose, and like all those things are greatly improved when you have more muscle mass. And so again, that all just ties into a body that's healthy, that's functioning the way it was designed to function.
So I know this isn't just about workouts and meal plans. At least I'm guessing it's not. Based on some of our conversations, you focus a lot on behavior change, self-efficacy, right? Probably.
Mm-hmm.
So why do so many people, and I'm saying why do so many people because I'm one of those people, I'm kind of asking for myself here. Why do we fail at fitness? Why do we fail at health goals? How does your approach actually fix that, right? So not just the workouts, not just the meal plans, that mental piece, I think is probably the biggest piece because you could always eat different. You could always
Yeah.
work out, but that mental piece is probably the biggest piece. How does your approach, how does your program fix that?
And you're right, because like everybody knows, like, okay, if I eat healthier and I exercise, I'm gonna get this result. Like that's not a innovative concept. And most people know, like, in fact, like what I need to eat and what I don't need to eat. But it's that mental piece of getting them to understand that it's not gonna happen overnight, right? You need to just get that into your head that what I do today is not going to make me look better in the mirror tomorrow. It's going to be a process.
Mm-hmm.
And that process doesn't end in 8 weeks.
Right.
It doesn't end in a year. It's a whole lifetime process. So when we begin to change our perspective on that time frame, well, then now it doesn't become this thing where it's like, well, I have to, work out really hard for these 8 weeks. And then after those 8 weeks, I've accomplished it and I'm done.
Mm.
Now it's more of like, okay, this is a long marathon. Sure. Where now I can take my time, because if I know like this journey is a lifetime, well, then I don't need to work out 7 days a week at the beginning. I have my whole lifetime to work up to that. Right. So you start out very small, right? And it's like, what do they say? Like, how many bites does it take to eat an elephant? Or like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So, well, same thing with that. So that was, that was a huge for me when I started to be able to change that perspective and say, well, what if I just do something, just even if it's a little bit, and be able to just get that habit engraved into your lifestyle. And once that becomes an actual habit, well, then that just segues into doing more and more from there.
So speaking of habits, then, so over the next 8 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
if there's just one habit that I focused on and did for the next 8 weeks, just one, what's the most important one that I should focus on? Not that that's all that I'm going to do, but
So, I mean, it depends on the why. Like, why are you like, in regards to what goal? Like, if your goal is to lose weight, like purely weight loss, I would say the one thing that would absolutely move the needle in that direction would be cutting out sugars and processed foods. You do those two things, processed foods, sugars, and carbs, those things will move the needle in a huge way.
mm-hmm.
But you're not going to get the most optimum result. And it's not going to be long lasting, because you need to attach like a purpose to it, and you need to attach other pieces that kind of feed into each other that will then turn into a lifestyle, as opposed to just things that I do to get a result. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
It's kind of like anything in life, right? Like if you're building a business, you start today. That doesn't mean like 8 weeks from now, like you're going to be uber successful, that you're going to be a billionaire. Like you're not going to be Elon Musk in a month.
Right.
It takes time and repetition and discipline, and over time you can become that, but you have to have that mindset.
Yeah, that really resonates with me because, both you and I are building businesses, right? And I think setting your roots is very important. The foundation of anything, the foundation of a solid workout, the foundation of a nutrition plan, the foundation of a business, the foundation of your faith. Just the laying down the foundation takes a while. But once it's in place and the roots, like if you think about a tree, when a tree grows, most of the growing that it's doing is in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see it, but the roots start to come out and they go in the ground and it builds itself a foundation that it can then start to sprout and grow tall. And I mean, think about redwood trees.
Mm.
How like monstrous are those things?
Mm-hmm.
But they started like this big. But their roots are what allowed them to grow as big as they are. That said, one of the reasons I'm actually committing to this program is because I do want to lay a better foundation for my health. And one of the biggest catalysts for me is kind of my own personal journey, right? My health, wanting to be there for my kids. My daughter's getting into track now. I want to be able to run alongside her. I used to jog, man. Like I was a jogger also. So anyway, so that's the catalyst is getting my kind of health, giving it that kind of firm foundation,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like we do everything else. Another thing is also watching certain people in my life and where they are, where I will be, 20, 30 years from now. I, I, I don't want that for myself. I don't want to be struggling with back issues. I don't want to be struggling with heart issues.
Mm.
Some will tell me, well, it's too late now. You're 45. No. And I have heard that, enjoy the rest of your life. You're fine. No, I actually want to enjoy the rest of my life. So hence why jumping into this program now. And I've done this before. But I think the difference now is kind of seeing that image of my future self in front of me. Again, this person that's in my life that, I see on a day-to-day basis. I don't want that. I want to live a healthier life. I want in 20, 30 years, I want to still be able to wrestle my son down to the ground, which I could still take him, by the way. And Mark, if you think otherwise, you're mistaken. But that's my catalyst. That's my why. That's mine. It's not just, losing weight. It's not just building muscle. It's shedding weight off my brain, in the sense, shedding all the crap that, I've been lying to myself about over the past, few years. We've been through it, man. We've been through the ringer. I've hit rock bottom. I know when you say that, it resonates with me. And I'm sure it resonates with a lot of you too, but that shouldn't have to happen. We shouldn't have to hit rock bottom. And the reason I say that is like, I'm thinking about my kids, when you're teaching your kids something, you're like, you should do it this way. Trust me, I've been there. I know what you're saying. Like, I know that you're about to fall into this hole. Like, you don't have to. But they end up falling in that hole anyway because they need to make their mistakes for themselves. But when it comes to our health, I think we need to figure out a way to not, or to help the people around us to not fall into the traps that we fell into, like I did. I want my kids to see that, hey, you could either be like this when you're 70, or you could be like this when you're 70, right? And show them the contrast and show them that it's the daily decisions. Show them that it's a mental game, right? And a program like yours, I think, is going to help set that foundation for me, at least. This is day one, literally. We decided to record this podcast on day one of the program, enjoying my black coffee, which I only drink black coffee, but still enjoying my black coffee on day one of the program. So we'll see. We'll see what these 8 weeks have in store. And honestly, I'm looking forward to the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to is that mind shift. That, being able to say, not having to say, I'm on a diet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say that anymore.
Yeah.
I just want to have a specific diet. This is my diet. This is what I eat. This is my workout routine,
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Is what it is. It's not a diet. It's just, this is how I do it. Right. And it all ties back to your why. And I think that if you keep your why fresh in your mind on the days that you don't want to work out, or on the days that you're just struggling to not have that cookie or not have that, whatever bread, but bread,
Desserts don't.
right? Yeah, that's my advice is the chocolate chip cookies or the bread. And you put a chocolate chip cookie right here, that's the biggest temptation. But it's on those occasions, it's going back to your why and say, why am I doing this? And understand that like you're trading short-term pleasure for long-term gratification.
It's hard.
Yeah. So
It's hard.
but if you do that, like if you think about it, like for example, like and I've went through this whole process in my mind. Like I've been in the situation where there's a cookie right there and they're free and I could just have one and it'd be amazing, right? But then I start thinking about it and it's like, okay, how long am I actually going to be enjoying that cookie? Like it's literally going to be like seconds.
Yep.
And then after that, I'm going to feel terrible for like the whole day because I'm like, man, like it wasn't even worth it. Like it was just 10 seconds and now I feel crappy and like I ruined, what I was doing. Whereas if you see the cookie and you're so strong in your mind that you're able to look past that and get through that, now you feel empowered. Now you feel amazing. Now you feel like you accomplished something, and that just adds fuel to the fire. And the more days that you can have that, the more of that momentum you'll build, and the better results you'll get. So I think it's everything is all about the why. It's like coming back to that why. It's like on those days where it's like really hard to get out of bed and go to the gym, like, but why am I doing this? That's right. And then you go and I do it.
I think one of the things that's motivating me to do this is, so I've been following you on Instagram, and some of the videos that you're posting are about that and that mindset. I think one of your videos, it was like 5 a.m. or 4 something, and it was like pitch black out and it was raining. It was like the perfect storm of just staying in bed and pulling the covers back up. I'll just go tomorrow. But you got in your car and you went to the gym and you did your thing. And I think watching that is what kind of sparked in my brain. Well, if he could do it, I could do it.
Absolutely.
But what's stopping me? Nothing. Just my brain.
Yeah. And it's funny because once you get to the gym, you realize that you're not the only one. Like I get to the gym, there's actually a good amount of people there.
Really?
And I'm like, man, like
Interesting.
people do this.
Yeah.
It's not just me.
Yeah.
Like I'm proud. It's like this weirdo,
Yeah.
like the only one. There's a lot of people there. There's a saying that really resonates with me. And they say that like, I don't know how true this is, but I've heard the statistic that you have a better chance of being a millionaire than you are at having a six pack. Like when you look at those statistics, that's what they said. Like there was more people. Yeah.
I don't have $1 million in the bank, right?
Yeah. And of course we're talking about people that are like 30 and above.
Sure.
But yeah, that's the statistic about like having a six pack versus being a millionaire. Well, so to me, I'm like, man, like, well, if I have a six pack and it's harder to get a six pack than it is to be a millionaire, then shoot, I should be with you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like if I just apply everything that I do, that I did to get that six pack, then naturally I should be able to become a millionaire at some point. So
All right, we'll see. God willing.
yeah.
God willing. So you're running 2 businesses now.
Mm-hmm.
ESCO, Elite Sports Chiropractic Optimization, right?
Correct.
And your coaching brand, of course. What's harder, keeping patients accountable for their rehab or keeping me accountable for my workouts?
I would say keeping people accountable for their workouts. The reason being is when people come to see you as a chiropractor, they're there for a specific reason. This is a new thing to them. Like, oh, I just started having this knee pain or this neck pain. So in their mind, they're solely focused on that, and they're coming to me to be able to fix that. And it's more of like an alarm type thing that's going off. So they're gonna address it and they're gonna pay more attention to it. Whereas somebody that's trying to lose weight, they might have had that for years and years and years. They've tried everything. And so for them, it's harder to wrap their head around like, okay, I can actually lose this weight.
Mhm.
And of course, working out and eating healthy and all the things that go into that, it takes a lot more effort than it is to do a rehab exercise or,
True.
something with pain management. Yeah. Also with pain management, you can take like, pill or whatever, or not. It's obviously calm it down. But I think the other thing is more of a lifestyle. So it's a lot harder because now you have to change the mindset and it's not just do this and you'll be out of pain kind of thing.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And we touched on this a little bit earlier because the internet's full of, fitness gurus,
Mm-hmm.
and, they're selling cookie cutter, you know, one size fits all plans.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and you did say that what sets you apart is the fact that you walk through it, but I think there's a little bit more to it. So I'm going to challenge you on
Yeah.
that. Like, what sets your coaching apart from the kind of, I hate to say it this way because we use Instagram
Mhm.
to help our businesses, but the Instagram nonsense.
Yeah. So a big part of that is my background, right? Like I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I also am big into functional medicine, right? And so when I give somebody a weight loss program or I give them a workout routine, it's not just with the intent of, hey, let's lose 30 pounds as fast as possible. It's also with the intent of like, let's get you as healthy as possible. Because you can lose weight in a very unhealthy way.
Sure.
And that's what a lot of these coaches are doing. But for me, it's like, no, no, no. Like, we're going to do this the right way. Because if we do it the right way, it's going to be a long-term thing and it's not going to turn into a one and done. Right. So it's having that foundation as a provider and the knowledge to be able to educate my patients or educate my clients that this journey is not just about the number on the scale, but it's about how you feel. It's about your health. It's about all those things that are going to make you a better person. So that I think that's one of the biggest reasons as well is that you're getting a lot more than just, hey, I know how to lose weight.
Yeah. And if somebody is skeptical
Mm.
about kind of health coaching and, it's just another product, right? Just another thing for me to spend money on. Like, what's the one thing you'd say to convince them to give it a shot?
Well, I would say, especially if they've tried it all, you weren't designed to be unhealthy and overweight. Do not give up on that because that's not the way we were meant to live our lives. And I know that the way the body works if we can just tweak certain things in your life so that the body can start to function and be healthy again, you can do it too.
Mm.
Like, it's not like being healthy and being fit is not photoshopped. It's not like people, the 1%. It's not that. Like we see these celebrities and we see these people, and to us, it's like, oh, like that's them. They're celebrities. Like it might not even be. Some people think it's just all photoshopped or whatever. But the reality is, we can obtain that. We can obtain it. You just need the right knowledge. You need the right work ethic, and you need discipline to be able to achieve that. And this is not just another like, here you go, like quick hack or like it's not that. It's something where like I feel very passionate about and it's going to be tailored. It's going to be, I'm going to be listening to you and we're going to find what is the upstream issue, right? Because if we find the upstream issue, whether it's hormonal, whether it's, some sort of enzyme deficiency or vitamin deficiency, if you're having some sort of weight loss resistance, what is the root cause of that? As opposed to just like, okay, let's do what everybody else is doing.
Right.
Right. So it's tailoring that to the person so that we can understand why their body is not functioning the way it's supposed to. And then once we find that, it's instilling those habits and those lifestyle changes that will change their mindset and will allow them to have a lifestyle that encompasses health and, allow them to do the things that they love.
Sure.
So I would say that that's the difference.
That makes sense. Let's talk about ESCO
Mhm.
a little bit. Kind of sounds like one of the businesses I started back in the day. I used to have a company called OSESEO. Mm.
What that stand for?
Online Search Enterprises Search Engine Optimization.
Ah.
Yeah. I've been in the game for a while. Anyway, so Elite Sports Chiropractic Optimization, that's the name of your practice. This is outside of your coaching. The name sounds like a superhero team, but what exactly does it mean for your patients?
Yeah, so how I came up with that name was, if you ESCO spells out ESCO, which is short for Escobar, right? That's my last name.
Last name.
So when I don't know how it came to my mind, but I was like, in a weird way, I've always wanted to have my last name incorporated into my business.
Sure.
But I was like, I don't know, like ESCO Wellness is sounded kind of corny. And I was like, I don't know. But then I'm like, wait a minute, if I make an acronym, then I can it could have a whole nother meaning. And anyways, I one time I was in the shower and I was like, wait a minute, Elite? And I was like, sports chiropractic. And I got those three and I was like, oh my gosh, that's ESC.
Yeah.
I just need one more and it'd be ESCO. And I was like, this is a sign.
Nice.
But anyways, no, the reason why I went with optimization was because I want to specialize in not just getting people out of pain, but really getting them to perform at their highest capacity so that they can perform at the biggest stage and get to their goals, right? So that's what I want to optimize is human function, human ability.
Makes sense. Optimization. That's big because a lot of the practices, I take it back, not a lot. There are practices out there that are get them in, crack them, get them out. And that's not what you're about.
Nope.
So the optimization, what does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah. So I've been a part of a practice that treats patients the way you just described. And that's the reason why one of the reasons why I wanted to get away from that is because I felt like I could be doing so much more for my patients and I was underserving them every time. And so I didn't feel as fulfilled, let's just say that. So my new approach is, let's try to see our patients with as little visits as possible, minimum visits to get them to their goals, as opposed to, I'm just going to do this cookie cutter adjustment for a whole year and then we'll see where you're at, right? So my approach now is I'm going to take a lot more time with patients. I'm going to do a very thorough assessment because everybody has their own issues, their own imbalances that are leading to that type of dysfunction.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of figuring out okay, what does their anatomy look like? What does their gait look like? All those things. And then being able to come up with a tailored program that's going to address those specific issues. Because let's face it, yes, we have a spine and our spine is very important and it contains our nervous system. But what about the supporting structures around our spine that play a huge role, right? Because if your muscles are dysfunctional and they're movers of your spine, well, now your spine's going to move incorrectly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how many times you adjust that spine. If you don't address that muscle dysfunction, then you're always going to have that recurring issue come back again, right?
Yeah.
So my mindset now is okay, let's figure out how we can get people's spine aligned.
Yeah.
But also let's get them strong.
Yeah.
Let's keep them from getting injuries long term. And we do that by finding out what their specific goals are, right? For some person, it might be, I want to squat 300 pounds. For another person, it might just be I just want to sit without pain, which is, by the way, it's a squat, right? So just because you're not an elite athlete doesn't mean that you can't benefit from the type of optimization that I can provide in my office.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes.
I want to correct you just a little bit here. I like correcting doctors because I don't often get to do that. Here's one correction. When you had your other practice, although you felt like you were kind of get them in, get them out, you weren't doing that. Although it might have felt like for you that you were just, get them on the table, get them up. the time that you spent with me specifically and with my kids, and I saw you with other patients, you still took the time to like, hey, what happened different this week? What are you feeling? It wasn't just an adjustment and leave. I think with the time that you were allotted, you optimized on that time.
Sure.
Hence, the optimization in your name now. No, but you really took the time to really hey, did what I do last week, or did it work? Did anything change? And then you would modify accordingly. So that's just one thing I had to correct you on there. Yeah, although it was one of those again, not all practices are like that, but although that was the case, you weren't that, just FYI. So I saw your heart from even back then. So,
well, I appreciate that, because I always try to provide as much value as I can to my patients, right, with what I have. So in that instance in my life, I was restricted to a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So I was committed to jam packing as much value as I possibly could within that time. But how much better could it be? Oh, I could do things my way, right? And be able to provide a higher level of service where patients can really, really feel like they're getting taken care of, where they really feel like their life is changing. That's more powerful and impactful. And I am so much happier now, if I'll be honest with you, even though, financially I'm not in a great place, but I feel so much more fulfilled and happy with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm only seeing maybe like a handful of patients a week. But that work that I'm doing with those few patients has been so impactful and so life-changing to them that it means everything to me.
Sure.
And so now I want to take that momentum and continue to build on that and grow this, not just my chiropractic, but also into my
coaching. Yeah, I love that. So be honest with me. What's been the biggest kind of oh crap moment since you launched your own sports focused clinic? Like, the kind of thing that they don't really teach you in school.
Let's see. I would say the hardest part is the marketing.
Yeah.
Right? Because I wasn't really in that niche. I mean, I had athletes that I worked with. I've worked with professional athletes, which that helps from a marketing perspective. But it's like figuring out the right formula, like figuring out, okay, how do I get in front of the right people that are going to allow me to make the connections and get the right people through my doors so that I can continue to grow my practice. So it's just exposure, right? Like, how do I get that exposure with not having the resources currently just to be able to invest?
Yeah. I think that the chiropractic industry is shifting as a whole, but I also feel like the sports industry is also leaning towards chiropractic more and more. I actually was chatting with Dr. Ken Kaufman the other day on one of the podcasts, and he's actually a chiropractor on staff with the Pirates, the MLB team. So it's kind of cool to see, like, the sports industries realizing that the chiropractic care is such an important piece to be your optimal self. And I think that's going to shift more and more. And I think that's going to help your exposure, your practice's exposure specifically, because you're focused on the sports side of things. So that's cool. Now, I have like maybe one, maybe two questions on kind of the future of sports chiropractic specifically, because, you got wearables today, you have all these different scans, all these different things. But where do you see kind of the sports chiropractic industry in the next 5 to 10 years?
I see that becoming more mainstream than the conventional chiropractic. You have to understand there's two kind of views or two parties in chiropractic. There's the conventional, like straight chiropractic, and then there's like the what we call mixed chiropractors, which are more into like, okay, let's also look at the muscle structure, look at the surrounding things, right? And addressing them in a more of a science-based approach, which is like, I know you had Justin in here and he deals with a lot of that as well, because when you're looking at everything that goes into scoliosis, right? But I think that it's going to shift more towards sports chiropractic, or at least the way a sports chiropractic practice is ran. Just because if you think about, what sports chiropractic is doing, they're offering more services to their patients. They're not just using the adjustment. They are more well-rounded in my belief, and but they do address more things such as nutrition, such as exercise, and being able to educate patients on that is going to take them further. And it's also going to allow them to take control of their own health, where they're not just dependent on, hey, I need to get adjusted once a week, otherwise then like my whole life is going to fall apart kind of thing. So I think the future of sports chiropractic is not just going to be for sports. It's going to be for, again, like I mentioned, the lady that can't sit for more than 10 minutes or has difficulty picking things up, or the grandmother can't pick up her granddaughter, right? Like those are the people that are going to start to shift more towards that type of philosophy and practice, rather than just the chiropractic.
I hope so. I hope so. Okay. Now, more athletes are taking a data-driven approach to their health, to their performance, and all that. You got wearables. We have them on our wrists all day, every day. AI-driven recovery plans, genetic testing, all that stuff. So, do you see that tech playing a bigger role in chiropractic and coaching, or is that like the shining object right now?
It's hard to speak on the profession, but I can absolutely tell you that in my practice, it absolutely will. Because there's something called bio-individuality.
Okay.
Right? Yes, we're all from the same species, but we all have different genetic codes and we all have expressed certain genes and whatever. And so the only way to truly know what kind of, let's call it medicine or healthcare you're going to need is going to be dependent on your bio-individuality.
Okay.
So these wearables, like, for example, a continuous glucose monitor, I think that's amazing. Because while you may respond to a cookie in a completely different way that I respond to a cookie as far as blood sugar levels, right? That stuff like that is really important. Because if I find out that maybe I can have a cookie maybe once a week and it won't like spike my blood sugar, then maybe I can do that. And that will bring a little bit of enjoyment to my life, and I'll be able to have more of a balance.
Yeah. Wow, you really like cookies, huh?
Huh?
I said, wow, you really like cookies, huh?
I love cookies.
And that's just going to bring a more tailored approach. And I think that's what we're missing. I think we've always had, even in medicine and conventional medicine, it's always been like, all right, a pill for an L, right? Like you have this, textbook says you take this medication. If this doesn't work, you'll take that medication, right? It's always been very cookie cutter. But I think the future is going to be a lot more specific. We're going to identify what each patient actually needs based on their genetic makeup, as opposed to like, all right, well, here, take this because that's what, we're used to giving these types of conditions.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. I'm a big kind of, I mean, if I had a practice myself, I would endorse kind of the AI driven plans and things like that, because you can feed AI models all this information about your body, about your genetics, about your history, about, is there heart disease and your, whatever, all these things. And you can feed the AI model all this information and then get out the most optimal plan, recovery plan for, and it all depends on what model you're using too. You got to make sure that it is not a, medical big pharma driven type model. You want a chiropractic, holistic, functional type model that you're feeding. But I think it's going to be a huge, huge part. And I would definitely endorse it if I had a practice. That would be one of the things that I'd be doing, just like you're saying. But that's huge. That's huge in my opinion. I think that with AI being where it is today and the advancements that we've seen over the past year or two, it's been insane. I can't imagine where we're going to be in the next 5 to 10 years. We're probably going to be in a place where we can't even imagine that what it's going to be, because of how much more information we're going to have at our fingertips to be able to modify, to be able to, live a healthier life, to know pieces of information that we wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
Right. Unless we had these models.
Yeah, I share that sentiment, because I feel like right now there's two parties. There's people that are like definitely afraid of AI, and they think that they're gonna like take all their jobs, and then you have this other party where they're very excited about it and that actually see that it's going to actually progress and move things along and allow us to live better quality lives. Yeah. So I'm on that boat as well. I think that if we can figure out a way to optimize that and use it for a positive outcome, to have a net positive result. I think the example that you use is amazing, and I would love to have something like that in my practice, because it's just they just have so much knowledge. Like, they're literally like, all the knowledge ever collected is in that AI. Yeah. So as long as you have the correct AI, and it's not huge into like the tech and the nuance of all that. But yeah, I think that if you can model it in the right way, it could revolutionize
Absolutely.
the way we practice, and the efficiency of how we practice could be huge. So I think I'm in for AI. I think that they're going to be good partners with us, as long as they don't like destroy us or kill us.
Well, I mean, I think there's always two sides of the coin, and I get the other side of saying, oh, they're going to take over jobs, and because you can use anything the wrong way. Anything. You could take a hammer and throw it on my glass table right here, and it'll break. That's not what it's meant for, but you can. And it's the same thing with AI. I think we need to use it responsibly, but you're also going to have the people that won't use it responsibly, unfortunately. So just know what to look for, like as far as the policies behind what you're using, what tool you're getting your hands on, how was it created, who was behind, things like that. But yeah, but honestly, this has been absolutely amazing. I can't wait to record our next episode, which, by the way, will be at the end of the 8 weeks. So hopefully this part of me won't be here, but we'll see. I will definitely devote my time to it. Everything that you're going to tell me to do. You're on this, Harvey. You're hearing it right here. I'm gonna do it, and I can't wait. Again, the biggest thing is that mindset shift for me. But thanks for sharing with us your story, and talking about your coaching program and your new practice. I'm excited. I'm excited for you. Honestly, some really new, big, fun, awesome things ahead of you, and I'm looking forward to see and watch your story unfold, man. Because I was there, right? I watched it unfold. So I can't wait to see what comes of this. I'm already seeing it, honestly. So I could see it in the way you're speaking and the way you're holding yourself. So it's good stuff, man. And again, thank you so much for coming back on this.
And I think you could probably tell my passion and excitement is different than first time the first podcast we did.
Yes.
So, and I feel it. Like, I just feel like I have so much more energy. Just like I wake up and I'm like, I'm ready. Like, ready to do this.
I see.
By the way, we're also gonna be taking some pictures and before and after, as well, that good stuff, so that when we do our third podcast, we're able to show the audience some of those results. And
I'm putting myself out there.
that's fair. You're, man. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, but you're all holding me accountable.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So taking it back now.
No, definitely. I'm excited. I already went grocery shopping, man. My fridge is full of all the healthy stuff. So
I'm excited for your journey, honestly.
Thank you.
Because like, you've become a very close friend to me through this whole process, and
yes, sir.
I can't wait to see you achieve your goals. And the other thing is how that's going to impact and affect your family.
Yeah,
because you're the leader. They look up to you, right? So when they start seeing you,
right, man,
you're making those changes, and they're gonna follow suit as well. So
that's excited. That's the host. Thank you again. I appreciate your time, man. This has been amazing, and I can't wait to have you on again. It's good stuff.
Can't wait.
Awesome. Thanks, man.